Okay, so thank you all for coming. I want to especially thank the men and women standing behind me. Give them a round of applause. We're here to talk about public safety and the men and women in law enforcement that support us every single day. We have two speakers. We got John Krupinski, who's had over 30 years as an officer up in Danbury. He's president of the Connecticut Fraternal Order of Police. I'm honored to have their endorsement for governor. Second, Chris O'Donnell. Gonna come up. He's terrific. September 20th, 2021, Chris's husband, James, Farmington police officer, was run down and severely injured by a criminal stealing a catalytic converter. He was pinned against a wall with the car. Thank God he's okay. He went back to office several weeks ago. But Chris is going to talk about what her experience was like in that incident. Then Laura and I are going to follow up with some comments and we'll take questions, but I really want the questions to be on topic today. I promise you I'll have another presser this week. You can ask me whatever you want. But today is about public safety. Today is about protecting our men and women in law enforcement. Today is about reducing crime. And today is about keeping the residents of Connecticut safe. So with that, I'm going to bring up John Krupinski. Look forward to your comments, John.
Good morning, all. Johnny Krupinski here from the Fraternal Order of Police. Look, the Democrats and the Democrats only own this police accountability bill. It was rushed through at 5:30 in the morning. It was quickly signed by Governor Ned Lamont, and in doing so put more guns, more drugs, and more fentanyl on the streets of Connecticut. When we stop a car now, we can no longer use a consent search to make entry into that vehicle to seize those items. We can no longer talk to the passengers of the vehicle, ask for ID, ask what they're doing. They could be wanted for murder. They can have a gun. They can have a pocket full of fentanyl. They're getting a free pass under this bill. This bill is the reason that we have a rise in shootings, rise in homicides, a rise in overdose deaths. Overdose deaths are killing our youth in and all over the communities in the state of Connecticut. We have only one candidate in this race who has vowed to repeal this police accountability bill and make Connecticut safe again. And that candidate is standing right there. That is Bob Stefanowski. I ask all of the people of the state of Connecticut from all walks of life, please protect yourselves, protect your families. Please protect my officers that are out in the streets every day fighting this battle for you. Vote for Bob Stefanowski to repeal this bill and make Connecticut safe again. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next, we're going to have up Chris O'Donnell, just to remind you. Her husband, James, was run down about a year ago after a criminal stole a catalytic converter. He was pinned to a wall. Put Chris and her family through hell and back. Chris, since then, has been a terrific advocate for police safety, protecting our men and women in blue, and I'm honored and proud she came here today. Chris, come on up and tell your story.
My name is Chris O'Donnell, and just over a year ago I heard that knock on my door at 2 a.m. It was Farmington Police Lieutenant Mackenzie. He calmly told me I needed to come to the hospital. My husband, Officer James O'Donnell of the Farmington Police Department, had been hit by a car. the anxiety I felt at that moment as our baby slept upstairs and as I quickly got ready to go to the hospital. That distress feeling cannot be described in words today. It was only later I would learn that James was not hit by a car. He was pinned to his cruiser with a stolen car driven by a career criminal. A man with at least 24 arrests in 14 years. A man that drove away, leaving my husband on the ground, not able to feel his legs. My heart ached this past Friday as I sat among our Bristol police family at the funeral for Lieutenant Dustin DeMonte and Sergeant Alex Hamzy. It was difficult not to relive my nightmares from a year ago when I too thought I might be planning a funeral for my young husband. My husband and I are residents of Bristol, and last year when my James spent over a month in the hospital, it was Bristol Police Department that sat outside my home, watching over me and my babies. It was Officer Urado who found and returned our mischievous German Shepherd the day of my husband's surgery. Knowing they were there gave me peace of mind, and I send heartfelt condolences to the families of Lieutenant DeMonte and Sergeant Hamzy, as well as the entire Bristol Police Department family. Over the past year, I have reached out to numerous legislators on both sides of the aisle, begging them to call a special session to address and revisit HB 6004, the Police Accountability Act. It was an act pushed through in the cover of darkness in 2020, an act that nearly cost my husband his life. I plead with those who sponsored the bill. I pled with those who sponsored the bill. Most politely listened, but offered no hope of revisiting or revising the act. We are lucky in Connecticut to be protected by some of the best trained law enforcement officers in the entire country. Unfortunately, the current administration allows and sometimes encourages anti-police rhetoric to be spewed while ignoring the fact that evil is among us. Over the years, the state of Connecticut has failed to protect law enforcement officers, their ability to pursue criminals, and ultimately passing the Police Accountability Act, which can be interpreted to eliminate an officer's qualified immunity. A system that holds police officers more accountable than criminals, like the man with 24 arrests who nearly killed my husband over a catalytic converter, is a flawed system. A system that continues to fail its law enforcement officers is a system that continues to fail us, the citizens of Connecticut, that want and deserve to feel safe and protected. I stand before you today feeling like evil continues to have the upper hand in this state. Our governor claims violent crime is down. That is simply not true. Crimes such as catalytic converter thefts and car thefts are simply reclassified as property crimes. Tell me how a citizen defending his property has his throat slashed by thieves is not considered violent crime. It doesn't matter the weapon, a car, a handgun, a knife, a rifle. In the most current situation, all can be deadly. It is the intent of those holding the weapon used against the officer. You see, evil does not discriminate. Evil doesn't care what the color of your skin is. Evil does not care if you're a Democrat or Republican. Evil doesn't care whether you live or die. Join me in standing up against evil beginning today. Every officer in this state needs us to take a stand against evil by electing officials who back the blue and vow to revisit, revise, or eliminate the Police Accountability Act. The police officers of Connecticut need us behind them right now so they can do their job protecting us and themselves from evil. I am not a politician. I am not a lawyer. I am a mother and I am a wife. And after fighting for over a year with the current administration, who will not speak my husband's name, I strongly urge you to vote for Stefanowski today. I am not sure about you, but I simply cannot live another 4 years of rampant chaos that has taken a hold of Connecticut. Thank you, and vote for Bob Stefanowski.
Thank you. Amazing woman. Let me just add a few comments to what Chris and John said. And we can try and pick and choose different statistics to blame that crime is down. You guys all know it's not down. I can honestly say, Laura and I have been campaigning for months. I have not met one person, not one, who said they feel safer than they did 4 years ago. Last Thursday up the road, Hartford Raymond Lewis became the 32nd homicide in Hartford this year. It's 34 last year. This will be the most violent year in Hartford since 2003. Mayor Bronin cut the Hartford police budget by $1 million. I don't know how these politicians do it. Recently took a walk through my old neighborhood in New Hallville in New Haven. Many of you were there. A woman on her porch called me over. Said, I used to grow up in this neighborhood. She said, well, you know what? It's changed. Said she hears shots, gunshots every single night. Understandably, she's worried about the safety of her family. What am I supposed to say to her? You really think I'm supposed to say, well, crime is up nationally, so don't worry about it? Am I supposed to say, well, actually, the statistic for violent crime says it's down, don't worry about it? This is nonsense. It's time to realize we have a problem, election year or not, and it's time to do something about it. The right response is, I'm sorry that that's happening. We're going to do everything in our power to fix it, and we're not going to rest until it's fixed. That's the proper response. And that's the response Laura and I are going to give when we're up here. That's what people expect from their governor, that's what people expect from their lieutenant governor, and that's what they deserve. This rise in crime has had an impact on all law enforcement, from police officers to corrections officers to all first responders. Combination of rising crime, a horrible, horrible police accountability bill, and a lack of respect from government has put the men and women behind me and their families in an untenable and dangerous condition, and it needs to stop today. Police accountability bill that Governor Lamont signed in 2020 has gutted police departments across the state. Officers are retiring as soon as they can, and new recruits are picking other professions. Talk to the parents out there. If you had a 20-year-old son or daughter, would you really recommend that they join the Connecticut police force right now? This is a job that we have pride in. This is a job that we should be respecting. And this administration has taken every ounce of respect away, and Laura and I are going to give it back because they deserve it. Hartford, New Haven, Bridgeport, other cities, down hundreds of officers. These men and women behind me are working double shifts. They work a 12-hour shift. They're ready to go home and see their family. Somebody taps them on the shoulder, says, "I'm sorry, we're down officers. You got to do another 12 hours." Unconscionable. State police, dangerously low levels. Supposed to have 1,300. They are down over 400 officers. 400. And you know what the graduating class was last week? 33 officers. It's laughable. We got $6 billion sitting in this building. Why can't we bring up pay? You're going to be a state trooper for $55,000 a year with personal liability and use of force that could put you in jail? Of course you're not. What are we waiting for? Corrections officers, I spent a ton of time with them. Them and the inmates they protect are in dangerous conditions. We're down dozens of corrections officers. And then finally, out of respect to the families, I'm not going to focus on it. But I'll tell you, anybody sitting at that funeral for Officer DeMonte and Hamsey on Friday, and seeing them and their families walk in, if you tell me that keeping police officers safe is not your number one priority, you ought to move out of this country. We need to make it safer for officers and their families, and we need to do it today. There's some bad actors out there, right? There's bad actors. I'm an accountant. There's bad accountants. There's bad business people. But you know what? For the 99.9% of these officers, putting their lives on the line for us every single day, we owe them every damn ounce of our respect and every single ounce of our support, and that's exactly what Laura Devlin and I are going to do when we're governor and lieutenant governor. They deserve it. They're going to get it. So today, Laura and I are going to sign a pledge. We're going to reverse 3 parts of the police accountability bill. We're going to bring back qualified immunity for officers. Why do you think crime's down? Everybody knows we're not getting involved in high-speed chases, nor if you had personal liability and you could lose your house or you could lose your kids' college savings, are you going to get involved in a high-speed chase? Of course not. We all know that's why some of these stats are down. We should just admit it and deal with it. We need to bring back consent searches that allow officers to do their jobs, uncover crime, and keep the rest of it safe. Officer came up to me at the funeral, pulled over a car. The guy driving, the guy in the right side of the car was smoking a bong. Couldn't do anything. So let him go, said have a nice day. Is that really where the state of Connecticut is? Is that really what it's come to? It can be better than this. But you know what? It takes leadership. It takes somebody who cares about cops. And it takes somebody who's going to take a risk and change it. And we're going to review the use of force standard. You know the problem right now? Cops have to wait till the criminal shoots before they do anything. You really think 2 months later, they got a split second to make a decision? You really think 3 months later, some panel somewhere should be sitting down and deciding whether this officer did the right thing or not? We need to keep people safe. We need to protect against bad cops. We need to reform people who do the wrong thing. But you know what? The pendulum has swung the other direction, and we got to start protecting the people behind us. After seeing the impacts of this police accountability bill, I can't find one reason in the world why Rob Hodeling and Ned Lamont would not sign the document we're about to sign to take away the dangerous and damaging clauses of this police accountability bill. Don't let them hedge on it. Don't let them tell you they love police and we're going to revisit it after the session. Don't let them defer to the good parts of that bill. There are some body cams. But don't let them get away without specifically saying they will repeal these three elements of the bill. Don't let them get away with their press. Get an answer. The guys behind me, the women behind me deserve. We owe it to the officers standing behind me. We owe it to the officers who have been injured already. We owe it to their families. And we owe it to the people across Connecticut to support the hell out of our law enforcement, to reduce crime, to keep people safe, and to make Connecticut a better place. That's exactly what we're going to do. With that, I'll turn it over to Laura for a few more comments.
Thank you, and I think that you heard very well today from the other speakers. I was in this building and proudly voted no against the police accountability bill. It was rushed in a special session in an atmosphere that had been generated full of anti-police sentiment, and if nothing else, it was political, and it was admitted to be an ill-thought-out, incomplete bill that would be further addressed later. Everything that we talked about in my caucus and the Senate Republicans as well, in terms of repercussions of this ill-conceived law, has come true. Bob talked about the woman in New Haven. I was there speaking to her too. I said, you know, this is not normal. Do not accept that you hear gunshots every single night as normal. To have 4 police officers shot in 1 week in our state, 2 that died so tragically. It is unspeakable, the growing sense of lawlessness in this state. There is no question we need to repeal at least these 3 aspects of this bill, and I will do everything possible to make sure that happens. Thank you.